Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm Victor Smith. Tonight, Joe Biden is going to be sort of the subject of our later topics, as he has vowed to pardon simple possession of pot at the federal level. Plus, there is a snafu about Saudi oil and the midterm. And more along the same line as the midterm, we will discuss a poll that has been released, which details a shocking trend for most Americans. However, first, we will discuss the Supreme Court denying themselves the case that could potentially have defined a unborn baby or fetus as a person with full rights thereof. And joining me to discuss all of this are William Stout, Charles York, and Prussian Dixie.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hey man, Biden just let me go from prison.
You sound like you're high, Charles.
I mean, yeah, he said simple possession. He let me off the hook. Anyways, I sober up really fast. Anyway, no, I don't do pot, kids. Anyways, yeah. So, I mean, I guess Vic, since he proposed that he can get the synopsis, but it's really simple. I mean, you can sum it up in a one sentence thing. But
yeah, basically the synopsis is there was a case that came before the Supreme Court that could have potentially defined an unborn baby as a full person, and the Supreme Court decided not to take the case because they have never discussed fetal personhood before, and fetal personhood isn't really a thing in the Constitution that has ever been discussed.
well, okay. So here's the problem with written documents like constitutions. You really have to have a you really should have a dictionary for all the words in the Constitution. Like when a word is used in the Constitution, you really need a definition. Oh, hi, Aiden. Unless it seems, yeah, even if it seems obvious, a word like man should probably be defined. Like a man shall not be deprived of his life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay, what's a dude? You know, you really need to. Things like this kind of need to be defined, and if they're not defined, well, unfortunately, somebody has to make up the decision um, about how to do that. But I guess since the Senate had lost its power to do anything constitutional related from the get-go, I guess now the Supreme Court has to do it because reasons. But now the Supreme Court's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. So the one time I would actually say that it might be within the Supreme Court's jurisdiction, they're not going to do it, which is just, it's like, come on, guys.
Well, to be fair, it might already be defined via legal precedent because if you kill a pregnant woman in a car accident, it's considered double manslaughter.
This is true. I mean, you could just, I don't know. I mean, the Supreme Court these days, well, the Supreme Court in general, they've done some good things, don't get me wrong. It's, of course, half of the good things they've done is making up for stupid things they've done in the past. But, no, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think that this is really something that needs to be codified. Well, not codified because then you would write a law for it. But saying that life begins at conception, that a person who isn't born yet has the same rights as someone who hasn't been born yet, like someone who's 2 has the same rights as someone who's 30. that needs to happen. One, because it will put an effective end. It will make it will make murder illegal, and two, it needs to. I don't know. I mean, it's just this is. It's so infuriating to see people because the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which was great, but they didn't go that one step further because that's when they should have said, in fact, abortion is a public matter because it's concerning someone wanting to take someone else's life, which is naturally an interest of the community to prevent homicide. So that's what they should have done. But this whole half step measure, which is better than nothing, is just what really, I don't know. I'm glad they overturned Roe v. Wade, but as I said at the time, not far enough. And this whole like backstepping, well, not backstepping, this whole like not touching this case thing. It's like, I don't know. Okay. But I do know this. What was because when a case is appealed to the Supreme Court, it goes through other courts. What did the previous court say on the matter? Okay.
I
probably
don't
should have
know.
figured that out beforehand. Oh, it's
Yeah,
turn.
that's probably something someone should have looked into.
In fairness, I didn't propose it, so.
Yes, well, I didn't look at this specific case, but a couple of things come to mind immediately. Firstly, when the Supreme Court decides something, even something as wide-reaching as abortion, at the center of the case, there are still specific facts to the individual case. If one were to think positively of the justices of the court, perhaps the specifics of that exact case wouldn't have been ones where it would be feasible to implement a ban on the practice of abortion. Of course, on the other hand, if one were to think...
And this was a Rhode Island case, by the way.
Okay. Cool.
I will,
if one were to look on the other hand, though, I mean, Republicans don't have any longer the carrot of, oh, well, if you elect us, we'll ban abortion. I mean, they don't have that as much anymore. So you gotta leave a little bit of leeway for the grift, if I were to be cynical.
I guess that is the case. Because it did generate a lot of public, I guess, support for people on the court. And the plus, who's that guy on the Supreme Court who constantly, like, scuppers the Republicans all the time?
Which one? There's multiple.
The one who's like, yeah, Obamacare is totally legit.
What? John McCain or Lisa Murkowski?
No, the one on the court.
Oh, John Robert.
Yeah, him. I don't know if he would have. I can't judge the man because honestly, I don't care enough to stalk the activities of every important person in the United States government or any government for that matter. But I don't know if he.
All right, I have more information about this now.
Okay, what did the main thing is? What did the previous? What did the court that was appealed from?
Court upheld a state law that guaranteed its citizens a right to abortion.
Okay, so essentially the Supreme Court allowed a bad precedent. Brilliant.
The Rhode Island Supreme Court rejected a lawsuit challenging the state's Reproductive Privacy Act of 2019. It essentially codified Roe into law.
Boo! Get off the stage.
Okay, so what they're doing then is they're trying to reinforce the decision that they most recently made when they struck down Roe, which is that it's a state's right to decide whether they allow abortion within their borders or not. They've essentially kicked the problem back to the states, and it looks like Roberts really doesn't want his court to be wading into the issue any further, and he wants this problem hashed out through the legislature.
I mean, if you look at the actual summaries, I guess you could say, of what each I can't think of the right word, but basically when they overturned Roe v. Wade and what like the concurring opinion and the dissenting opinion, Roberts didn't actually join it either. He basically made a neutral opinion, which kind of already said that he didn't really want to deal with it anyways.
I mean, you're selected to one of the most powerful positions in the entire nation, and your attitude is, I don't want to deal with it.
And to be fair, there's two ways to look at it. You can look at it in the form of the American conservative who wants to uphold the Constitution of the United States in its original intent. And in its original intent, one can argue that the Supreme Court isn't supposed to be sitting around here dictating and deciding what laws will exist within the nation. That's a sort of positive jurisprudence that they don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. But then on the other hand, you could look at it in the paternalistic conservative aspect, where you want to protect people by any means necessary. And under that framework, there's no time for this sort of legalism. And that, I think, Mr. York, is the direction you're taking, where there's no room for this sort of legalism because lives are at stake.
Yes. My position is the Constitution is only useful when it supports the natural law, and if it doesn't in any area, then it's worthless.
And you and I would agree on that, but
Yeah.
I'm afraid you and I are probably in the very much minority when it comes to certainly Republicans and definitely, and maybe even conservatives within this nation at large.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, guys, conserving the country does not entail conserving something that isn't ultimately good for the country. And right now, the Constitution on the whole is only good for the country because it's a possible check against people doing blatantly stupid things, which they still do anyways. I mean, I don't think anyone's dusted off that interstate commerce clause recently, but you know.
The thing that just keeps going through my head is that old Futurama joke where Richard Nixon said, "I know a place where the Constitution doesn't mean squat," and then he
First
runs
Supreme
out to the
Court.
Supreme Court. But
Supreme Court. I know a place where the Constitution doesn't mean squat.
Whoa!
Supreme Court. Arr, arr.
in any
Hello,
case,
Morbo, how's the family?
in any case, one certainly can say that that joke is now dead and buried.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that the Supreme Court kind of ignored the Constitution when they delegated themselves the process of constitutional review. So, from almost day one. Like day 3, at least.
The Supreme Court basically said that they have the power without anyone actually giving them the power.
And no one ever really contested that they had the power.
Well, yeah.
I mean, what were they going to do?
It kind
Complain
of
to the
just
Supreme Court?
happened. It kind of just happened, and nobody really had any real argument against it, like really at the time, and so people were just like, okay.
I mean, it was supposed to be the Senate's job. I guess
keep in mind this was during the era of good feelings, when there was essentially no political division of any significance.
I thought they. Well, I mean, yeah, but
I mean,
still,
but the political divisions back
I
then
thought
weren't
the
as
Federalists
bad
and
as they were
Anti-Federalists
nowadays.
are
I mean,
still
even
going
like
after.
back then.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think that if a constitutional government is going to work properly, which I don't ultimately think it ever will in the long run, but if it is, each branch of government is going to have to defend its powers on principle. So the Senate should have said, hey, could you maybe back off? And then you would have sparked a constitutional crisis because the Senate would have been right, but the Supreme Court said it was right. And then people would have to pick a side, and at best it ends with the one side getting completely humiliated, and at worst the president has to step in, and American Civil War in the 1810s, baby.
Wherever two branches of government disagree on what the Constitution means, let the third be the arbiter.
I mean, yeah, but where in the Constitution does it say that, though?
It doesn't, but it probably should have.
No, I mean, in this case, the discussion, the argument would have been who has the process of constitutional review, and normally a debate like that would you would hand to the guy who has constitutional review, but when that's the I would have loved to see that alternate reality. I'm not saying I would have liked to live in the consequences of that alternate reality, but I would have liked to seen that alternate reality play out. Like I could just go back in time with like popcorn and like a modern get up, and everyone's like, "Who are you?" It's like, "Oh, I'm a guy from the future," and they're like, "Okay, how are things in the future?" It's like, "Great. We have too many stars in the flag now. It's starting to look cluttered." But
Really?
train.
You think the
Well,
flag
I don't know if it's
cluttered?
starting to look cluttered. I'm just saying that eventually, like the 13, like the original flag is easy. Like would be easy for a child to draw. You know, whether it's the circle form or the line form, because 15's easy. But getting the space, like drawing 50 stars over and like drawing like that star pattern thing, which I can never get down. I always just drew them the sloppy way. Drawing 50 of those over and over, like, and then getting it in the correct, like, was it? I used to know how to do this exactly because I used to actually do this. The 6-5-6-5 order over and over again. Yeah. That's not easy. I'm sorry. It's too hard to draw. As someone who used to like draw the American flag a lot when he was doodling in school, um, I'm telling you that if we had just stuck with the original design, that would have made my life a whole lot easier.
I mean,
But of
look,
course, if we
we're monarchists, are we not? I mean, we're not exactly known for having easy to draw flags. What with the
Yeah,
coat
this
of
is
arms
true.
Well,
and
okay,
whatnot.
the French monarch. Okay, yes, the French royal standard would have been a little difficult to draw, but
I'm just
at the
saying the
same
standard of
time,
can a child draw it is kind of a silly standard to set compared to just does the flag look good? And I think the American flag certainly has
oh
its
no,
appeal
I think it looks
aesthetically.
good. I'm just saying that I don't know. I mean, part of me kind of says we should have gone all the way because originally we were going to keep adding stripes and stars, which is why the flag over Fort McHenry had 15 stripes, or was it 14? 15, I think.
15.
14. Okay. Oh yeah, right. It
No,
was white at the
15.
15. Yeah. Well. So yeah. So that would have been that would be weird. The American flag with 50 stripes. It's like, this isn't a flag. It's a clown's pullover shirt. It's Uncle Sam's T-shirt. Yeah, I don't know. That would have been a little excessive. But like, at what point does like the number of stars get excessive? You know?
Hang on a second, hold up. No one said those stripes had to be the same size.
Uh, for the sake of okay, look at the French maritime flag, and you will see why proportionality is very important.
No, they would all be proportional to each other. What I'm just saying is each time we add a stripe, all the other stripes get a little smaller.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what would have to happen. But eventually, like imagine, I'm sure somebody's done it on r/Vexiology, but like imagine, um, like on a normal American flag, especially like a small handheld one, like the one I'm holding right now that you can't see. Um, okay, just imagine 50 stripes, and then imagine how, like especially when it's waving, imagine how that would just blend together. Like the American flag waving in the breeze now is still, you can still distinctly see the stripes. At that point, if it was anything more than a mild breeze, it would just be a blur.
Now what you have to do is you have to take a imperial eagle and you have to attach the flags of every state onto the feathers of the wings. That's what you've got to do.
Oh,
That is quite the challenge. It would make for an excellent coat of arms, if you will, for the American monarchy should everything else remain the same.
I would
Well, actually, I did.
on that
For
because
the record, I
flag
said that in jest.
cavalry, so our flag wouldn't even fit on it.
Yeah, your flag would kind of just not. Well, anyways, actually, I will concede this. Normally, I like to boast over the superiority of, Michigan and how we are the greatest state in the world, and how well, at least the greatest state in the country, but because everything else is irrelevant.
You'd
But
be
I will
objectively wrong for
concede
doing so.
that Ohio by default has a better flag than Michigan, but also by default Ohio has a better flag than 26 states. Like if your flag isn't the state seal on a solid color background, you already have a better flag than like over half of the U.S. states because the U.S. states were just that lazy.
Well, no, I mean the reason they did that was like after the Civil War, the states began changing their flags so that they were more plain, so that it didn't have like any possible like nationalistic anti-union feelings. They changed it to be more patriotic. Apparently.
Yeah, and I think that was stupid. Because here's the thing, I still try to force myself to say the United States are, and then I had to keep reminding myself. Because here's the thing, where the United States, it's a plural. It's an indivisible plural, but a plural nonetheless.
Oh, it's indivisible. Don't divide it.
Well, I
It's
mean, the
that
South
easy.
may have disagreed at one point on the whole indivisibility thing. But hey,
And
we
we
had the
fought a
Pledge of
war,
Allegiance
and the
now.
people that thought it was divisible lost. So now it's indivisible.
That's
We'll burn Georgia down a second time if they want to dispute it.
Actually, I've said before my position on the secession question. If secession not be valid, then if secession be valid, my thoughts have to lie with the Confederacy. If secession not be valid, then God save the king.
Acceptable.
I find your terms agreeable.
Although I will admit, and I think I've also said this before, I will say the Confederacy probably did have the better songs of the war, like "Bright Sunny South" and what was it? "Bright Sunny South" and "Southern Soldier Boy" are like I think the two best songs of the
Okay,
war.
but Union's version of Dixie, though.
It's
Okay, yes, but like,
That
have
was
you ever?
in
Okay,
my-
wait, no, just like just the was it Johnny Cash version of it, or yeah, I think just the Johnny Cash version of it was the best one.
Oh, speaking of Johnny Cash, I think it was Johnny Cash. Have you heard Virginia's Bloody Soil? Okay, that one also kind of bopped. Well, I don't know. Can a song bop if it's like melancholy and slow tempo?
I would say
I
so.
guess so.
I guess I don't know. But anyways, Virginia's Bloody Soil is a very good is a very striking piece. But I would still argue that Southern Soldier Boy is pretty great. But Bright Sunny South I think is the best. If not just for the verse. What was it? In my pack there's a Bible to show me the way through trials on earth and to heaven I pray. Well, the lines are someday, but whatever. So I'll shoulder my musket and brandish my sword in defense of this land and the word of the Lord. You know, it's like, yeah, a modern song probably wouldn't get that. I mean, of course, religious feelings were high, I guess, on both sides because Battle Hymn of the Republic, but which is also a good song, but I still like Bright Sunny South more because it feels more personal, like it's like your personal connection to the whole conflict thing. Yeah. And also, one final tangent for me. I know I think I know the reason the Confederates wore gray was because they couldn't afford dye, so they just went with like the natural color, which happened to be various shades of gray. But I do think I like the gray outfits, the gray aesthetic a little bit more than the blue. But I do like deep blue. But I don't know. And this has been the most apolitical discussion on the American Civil War ever.
Indeed. So does anyone have any final I suppose we should ask if anybody has any final thoughts on the Rhode Island case that got taken out by the Supreme Court. But I
Rhode
think
Island's
everybody
always
is
ruining things.
Well,
right.
I mean, at this point, it might be worth it making DC a state just to take away the title of smallest state from Rhode Island.
But
well,
then I have to learn a whole new metric of measurement. I mean, my state is the size of 52 Rhode Islands. If you make a Washington, D.C. a state, then I have to measure Alaska by the number of Washington, D.C.s that'll fit into it.
Well, I mean, you just
that's
take
like
this.
that's like
I mean, that's a
3
simple equation.
times the amount.
I mean, how many? Isn't Rhode Island like 3 counties or something?
I think it's 5 actually.
5 county. I mean, you can. You think that's something they have to like Rhode Island children have to learn like for like tests? Like, you have to like know the 5 counties of Rhode Island. Because like with most states, you couldn't just know all the counties. That'd be like,
You can for Alaska.
how many counties do you have?
None.
Yeah, they don't have counties.
Oh, that's.
So does
They have,
Louisiana.
like,
Louisiana doesn't have counties either.
They have
They have
parishes.
parishes, but those are basically counties. But no, we don't have any sort of county-like divisions because outside of like the major towns, there's not enough of a population to justify it.
But yeah, isn't it like out of like Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Juneau?
Like
There's like
Anchorage
nothing.
has what's called a municipality, so like the region immediately around Anchorage is subject to Anchorage's jurisdiction, and that's a whole hot button topic because you have the people out in Eagle River, which is this town that's outside of Anchorage, technically under Anchorage's jurisdiction, and they're constantly doing their secessionist stuff, and they're posting posters everywhere about it, and they're organizing media campaigns and that sort of stuff. It crops up every few years.
What's the name of this town?
Eagle River?
Eagle River in the south be like one struggle. No. I mean,
Okay.
They
that
don't want
would
to
be a very
separate from
one
the United
struggle
States as
moment.
a whole. They just want to get away from Anchorage's jurisdiction.
I don't know. Actually, I mean, that's how you solve the issue. You just have like a you just have a Civil War reenactment, and like, except it's like with Nerf guns, and whoever wins that battle decides whether or not that town secedes from Anchorage. I mean, that's my way of dealing with it. Although I don't think there was much snow in the Civil War, so they got to do it in like July or something.
All right.
I'm pretty sure that the winters were pretty important to the logistics and victory of the Civil War.
Right.
I mean, I
Let-
guess all I know is that we had glorious rail network in the South. Didn't. I mean, they had a rail network, but it wasn't as glorious as ours.
Trains.
All right.
Choo-choo! Okay.
Let's take the train. Let's take the
Okay.
train.
Anyone have any final thoughts? No. Well.
Let's
Prussian.
My
take
brain is choo-choo. No thoughts.
let's
Okay.
take the train to our next topic, which there was a poll that was released which stated that let me go ahead and grab it. Let me go ahead and grab it very quickly. All right. Nearly 4 in 10 Republicans, that's 40%, and 1 in 4 Democrats, that's 25%, say they'll blame election fraud if their party doesn't win control of Congress in the midterm election. Which means 32.5% of all Americans, assuming that this poll is a 50-50 split, will be blaming election fraud after the election should their side lose. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Exhibit A of why monarchy provides stability.
Yeah, I mean, like, the rules maybe seem complicated, but like once you put it into a computer algorithm, it's pretty easy to. You can just automate the whole process, really. I mean, you don't even need the computer algorithm. That just like
I was
lets you
gonna
know.
say, how is the process of monarchical succession complicated?
Well,
You have
I
a
mean,
guy,
I do male
he has a
primogeniture.
kid,
So.
and the kid ends up with being the new king.
elected to power. Who elected them?
God, now shut up.
But I don't care about your sky daddy.
Okay. Well, I don't care about your opinion.
Okay,
So
I
shut up.
understand you're being sarcastic. Not unironic. Can we not use the term Sky Daddy on the podcast?
Sorry.
Okay, but it was ironic use of Sky Daddy.
It was though, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Catholic memes if r/Catholic memes allows it, I'm pretty
Oh.
sure that.
Goodness, what a subreddit that is.
Oh, I love it so much. So much.
It's better than frickin' what is it? Just r/Christian memes in general.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the
Yeah.
guy who's like the head of that is like a social liberal, anyways.
And this is coming from a Baptist, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. 1 out of 1 Baptist survey prefers r/Catholic memes to r/Christian memes.
No,
Same with
I am
100%
one of
that's not
that.
as
I am one
sophisticated as
of
the
that
Kevin
one. I am
Bible.
in that. I'm in that 1 of 4. Honestly, it's
I'm
just
gonna have to check out r/Catholic memes now.
Oh yeah, there's so much gold. Like for Columbus Day. Well, I'll let you look at it.
All right, let's get back to the actual topic at hand here, which is the number of people that would blame election fraud.
Honestly, I just think it's absurd that we're to the point in American politics that people are that sort of losers that they would just be like, no, I didn't lose, the other side cheated.
Yeah. I guess there's really not much to say except this is what you get because republics can't really handle division all that well. I don't know. I mean, it's just that there's no figure that can unify, and ultimately, when the people who are in charge are elected, why shouldn't you blame voter fraud if the people you don't like are in charge? You know, because obviously they're going to be messing up the country because my guys aren't in charge, so therefore. Everything will fall apart. Therefore, other side must have cheated because obviously no one would vote for other people. Yeah. So this is this is bad. Although I will say the only consolation I can think of here is that there's so many like armchair activists that any civil war would essentially just be people yelling at each other on Twitter. While like only 20% of people who would actually normally fight in a civil war would actually be shooting at each other. So I will say that if this does spark into civil war,
I will say that the revolutionaries in the American Revolution were a small fraction of the population of the 13 colonies, and yet they were somehow with a lot of French help, of course,
and
able
Spanish.
to
Not
yes,
Dutch.
yes, and Spanish, able to defeat the
And Native
British in that particular revolution.
and I will just and that's another thing to go back in time and do. Tell Louis the 16th, or yeah, it was Louis the 16th at that time, and whoever the King of Spain was. Bro, all the rank and file Catholics are siding with the king. There's a reason for this. Here, have a copy of Thomas Paine's Common Sense, and you'll quickly see why the British are the right side in this particular.
I mean, you kind of forget that the French weren't exactly very big on Catholic unity, because I mean, most of the time they were always on the other side of the Protestants, but that was just because they hated the freaking
Habsburg.
hated the Habsburgs so much.
Hated
Yeah,
everyone else in the Catholic Church.
I love the Habsburgs.
But but you weren't around back then.
Well, yeah, but the Habsburgs are my boys.
I don't
I
know.
play
My
poker with them on Tuesday. No.
ancestors were at that time were somewhere in the Highlands.
Let's and then just to look at that number, it is gravely concerning for the health of the nation as a whole.
Yeah, but what are you going to do about it?
Well, I leave that to all of you. What are we going to do about it?
No, I mean, I mean, obviously, the only ultimate solution is monarchy. Well, I mean, this isn't necessarily a monarchy-specific solution. I mean, single-party military dictatorship could also solve this problem, but I would rather not live under a single-party military dictatorship. Unless it was like a coalition of like all the coolest generals in history. Now that might be something, just get like all the famous generals that everyone loves, and like Admiral Yi, and now that'd be one military dictatorship I'd be down for. But anyways, no, I mean it's just
Now, what I'm curious to see is what the fallout from midterms is going to be now that we have this knowledge.
I mean, okay, but I think that it is sort of an overreaction thinking about this, because people might because there were a lot of people, and I don't know if the 2020 election was rigged or not. People say all the mainstream media says it wasn't, but at the same time, obviously the mainstream media would say it wasn't, and I'm not really going to bother to look into all of that stuff. But
Russia,
whether or not it
Russia,
was rigged or
Russia.
not, there were a lot of people who thought it was, but either they A, did nothing, or B, complained about it on insert social media outlet here, which isn't really a lot when it comes to tangible action. Unless you get someone else to do something because of that. So really, even if a third of the country would blame election fraud, what percent of that third would actually get up in arms about it?
Well, I argue that the Republicans have more of a capacity to get up in arms about it,
Well,
but
yeah, but
I'm not
Republicans are just the
sure.
kind of people who don't get up in arms about what. Okay, here's what I really. Okay,
I
sorry
mean,
for cutting.
the Democrats, like if anybody remembers in 2016, the Democrats were saying the only reason Trump won was because the Russians colluded, and multiple times members of the House attempted to also do what Republicans did in 2020, which was to stop the counting results because they said it was because of fraud. The only reason they didn't do it was because no senator would back them up.
Oh yeah, let's just ignore that though. Um, no, but
Reed, this has been a problem since 2016. 2020 is basically just a Republican version of what.
yeah, except I don't know. It's just everyone's on edge, and there is no solution. I mean, like we say, this is. I mean, like I think I figured out what the expression is when something reaches fever pitch. Because when you get a fever, there's really not a lot you can do except wait for it to get like bad, and then eventually the problem will go away because your body fights it off. This is just what Republic is. It's a fever, a really bad fever, that you can get deathly ill from. But as much as like, I don't know. I'm not an accelerationist. I think that I think that that like trying to make the problem worse so you get over with it is immoral, because you would have to vote for immoral people to get into positions so they would wreck things faster. But and you don't do evil hoping that good will come out of it. But it's just that I don't know. I went off this crazy train. But anyway,
Right.
We need to add something else to the MOA bingo sheet.
Which
And
is
it's gonna be Charles York saying but anyway.
that is on there. That is on
Oh, it
there.
is on there. It is
Yeah,
on there.
Charles randomly singing.
No. It is it? Is it there?
Yeah, it
No.
is. Hold on. Let me look. Hold on.
I know
I
you
have.
randomly singing is on there, but I don't think but anyway is on there specifically.
Oh, but anyways,
Yeah.
He says that we might as well just replace the free space with that.
yeah. I mean, that is pretty much a guarantee. Let's see. Total agreement. Victor Duancho. Base topics.
Just reading through
Oh,
it.
we're already good on a major topic goes by without talking about monarchy once.
We're all for good on Charles Rick going on a long rant.
Yeah, okay. 2 seconds plus of silence. We already got that. Not when I asked for final thoughts. Catholic talk not involving fraud.
Long tangent that will mess up the timestamps. Yeah, we got that one.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. We didn't really get to prop bashing explicitly.
Not yet. You want to fix that? No, I'm just kidding.
We'll wait till later. Will's mic fading in and out for 3+ seconds. I don't know if that was happening on the show, but it was happening before the show, so close enough. We almost had Michigan Ohio bickering, but I kind of avoided that. We need to we need to be better. But anyways,
I didn't.
Let's, Aiden, do you have any thoughts on the actual topic in question?
You gotta remind me what the actual topic in question is.
the poll of
That poll, the election fraud poll.
Pretty much everything that I would have to say has been said. It's emblematic of a dying nation that we fracture into a bunch of political factions that argue that one side or the other only won because of dishonesty, and it's really sad that we live in a nation where such rampant distrust is just that, rampant. I mean, I don't mean to make comparisons back to the late Roman Republic and its bands of people for one side or for the other who would go around beating the other side up and accusing them of rigging and cheating elections, but the more I think about it, the more it looks like we're going to end up in that direction.
Yeah.
Maybe not this election cycle, maybe not the next election cycle, maybe it'll be 5 election cycles from now, maybe it'll be 6, maybe it'll be 2. I don't know how much longer we have left.
The DNC is already cheating in at least their primary. And the reason I say that is you cannot tell me that somehow Joe Biden beat Bernie Sanders in the 2020 presidential primary. You cannot tell me that for certain.
When the Democrats,
I would actually believe that.
especially in other states, as well as my own of Maryland.
I'm sorry, hold on. Listen. Okay, I'm pretty darn sure Joe Biden won this primary, though. Okay, because the fact just that Bernie lost a lot of his luster, really, and also because of just the fact that Warren stole some of his votes off too, which really didn't help. If we're talking about 2016, that's a different story with the Democratic primary, but 2020, no, I'm pretty darn sure that.
To quote Freedom Tunes Bernie Sanders, how could my strategy of being nice to my opponents not convince the populace that I was a real revolutionary?
And we also have to consider that in my home state of Maryland, as well as other states, the Democrats propped up the more extreme Republican candidate to try to give their chosen nominee an easier path to victory. The Republicans did this by running ads claiming that Dan Cox was too conservative for Maryland and too close to Trump, which helped Cox win the Republican nomination for governor of Maryland in an attempt to make their chosen candidate, who we now know as Wes Moore, have an easier path to victory over Dan Cox. For to be fair, he already had a little bit of an easy path to victory already. He didn't need anything more than what the Democrats gave him.
Yeah.
And I think it's very insidious by the Democrats that if they want to, they're basically sabotaging the other side's primary in order to get the outcome they want to get their candidate an easier road to the election.
Because why not? I mean, no, I mean this is the thing. Why the heck not? I mean, we can use here okay, people who are actually I don't know how many people who are in the American political system right now actually believe in democracy and in republic. At this point, okay, I think that a lot of people are just out to win especially on the Democrat side, they're out to win by only paying lip service to the rules and the spirit of the rules and all that, because they think either if you want to look at it one way, they think this will be the better for the benefit of all mankind or whatever, or because if you want to look at it in one way, because they want the power and they want everyone else to shut up. But and getting everyone addicted to the MCU would be beneficial to that.
It's also that they think that their adversary is ontologically evil, and therefore they are ontologically good, even though they don't necessarily believe in ontological evil or ontological good as a concept.
Oh, that too. But no, okay, so I think I said this before, and this is really just parodying a quote from John Doyle, who is so close to getting it, but he just doesn't. Anyways, no, I mean, this is the thing, right? So the Republican Party, generally speaking, likes to play by the rules of the game for the sake of the rules of the game. That, as like we were saying earlier, people who support the Constitution because it's the Constitution and it's who we are or something. As if America was somehow a piece of paper and not a land and a people. But anyways, so that's that. But then the Democrats, they just want to get power, and I kind of have to respect that, at least in principle, because at the end of the day, if we're not dealing with any sort of like the American system only has legitimacy because it's the ruling government, right? It's only legitimate in the sense that it rules, in my opinion. Okay, the
Yeah,
fact that
and of course, do we know of Republicans doing the same thing?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it past some of them,
I mean,
but I mean, it's
look
just
at it this way. Throughout the entire summer of 2020, and before that, during the riots that happened in the wake of George Floyd's death,
that was 2020.
yes, exactly. We saw a bunch of progressives getting up and stating that they wanted change, and they wanted the change to happen now, and they wanted the change to happen by any means necessary. I think that in particular is part of the problem here. We see a bunch of people that don't believe in the system at all because they want change by any means necessary. I mean, we certainly don't believe in the system necessarily here. They certainly don't believe in the system. And there's certainly Republicans out there that don't believe in the system necessarily either. We saw that with some of the individuals during the January 6th riots. That there's people that want what they want by any means necessary.
And
Ultimately, that's poison. That's a toxic pill to any form of representative republic. Be a system which thrives on and sustains itself on doing things through the proper channels. And when you aren't doing things through the proper channels, you're inviting corruption, you're inviting criticism, and you're essentially killing the system of government you have. If I wasn't so against the idea of doing bad things to get a good result, I would be cheering on the death of America because of what they're doing.
yeah, I mean, I don't think that I mean, right now, a monarchist uprising against the federal government would be futile, because there's like, you
It
know,
would be futile regardless because the federal government has all these weapons and
well, no,
airplanes.
it's not that. No, I mean, just right now, if we were 60% of the American population, we could probably secure most major cities before the
No,
army could actually do anything. No.
no, the army.
No. I'm saying because you would have 60%, because you would have a good chunk of the army on your side anyway. So a number of the soldiers would either disobey the order or actively join the monarchist counter-revolutionary, whatever. No, but my point is that right now an uprising would be futile. But here's the thing: I view any sort of violent solution whether it be an uprising or a war against another state or assassination of a political leader. Under the whole just war theory idea, that it's only acceptable to take an action like that if not doing so would produce a worse result. So it's so under just war theory, if country B is staging a genocide, country A might have a reason, would have a legitimate reason to go after country B if it will cost the deaths of hundreds of millions of people and the likely casualties in the war are like 100,000 or whatever. But assuming all the other requirements of just war theory are met. But what concerns me, and my dad kind of said, comparing me to someone else in my family who is on the progressive side. He says, you're both wanting to destroy the system or something without having something to replace it with. Well, firstly, I have something to replace it with. I have centuries of millennia of tradition to use as a basis that actually worked, unlike certain other political systems I can mention. But no, I mean the difference is that I don't want it to burn down. Like I don't, because glory, revolutions and uprisings and heroic struggle, yada yada yada. Yeah, it's great for the movies and books and people learning about that history, years down the line is exciting, but it's not fun. Like if I could do it, if we could do it by just peaceful process, which is what we're advocating for. Okay, if we could, do it, by calling a constitutional convention and saying, okay, we're going to void the Constitution in 5 years after the passing of this amendment, and in the meantime, we're getting set up for the new thing. Then, yeah, okay, then I would do it. And I also say that if there is any case where monarchists in this country are taking armed resistance, it would be because the Fed shot first. Because I don't think that any of us who really are monarchists, like the bulk of American monarchists, none of us want to fight a war. Because even if we had the numbers to do it, we wouldn't want to, because it would be a bloody horrible mess. And that's the difference between us and the by any means necessary crowd, because by any means necessary means, say it with me now, by any means necessary. And that means riots in the streets. And I'm guessing if they felt they could do it, doing more than occupying a neighborhood in what was it, Seattle? Where was that? Chaz Chop thing. I don't know. Hey, someone check if YouTube still removes the comment "chop the chop" automatically. But anyways,
Maybe
No.
not in our video.
Find a random YouTube video and test that now.
I don't know. No. So no. I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, sorry for going on in this like long tangent, but it's just people. I don't know. I don't want violence, and if it like 50, 60 years down the line, monarchists are a significant force, and it turns out there's a war over it, um, at least with the group that I'm with right now, I would be pretty confident in saying the feds would have shot first, and we would have only been acting in self-defense. And future us, well, I mean, I may be dead by that point, but future American monarchists would be acting in self-defense. Because no, I mean, civil wars and whatnot, you get all these gallant stories of heroism and like funny stories of things that happened, like that one guy who played capture the flag during the Civil War, where he brought back where he captured the Confederate battle standard and ran it back to his own side. You get all those stories. Um that makes great reading and great movies and all of that. You know, some of the best movies and entertainment of all time are movies, and some of the best video are war movies, and some of the best video games are war movies or cover violent stuff. But it's but you have to remember that that's based off something real. Like those casualties were real people. It isn't just actors. And a war is a weighty thing, which is why most wars in human history wouldn't have been justifiable by the standards of the Catholic Church. Because, you know, it's a pretty high bar to set. Like, not, you know, doing something militarily uh being the lesser option, um you know, really doesn't happen as often as the track record of wars would think it was. And especially with modern weapons and how we can, you know, I mean, even setting aside nukes for the moment, it's only been in the last 100 years or so, and not even really that, because the first like fire bombings didn't happen until, like, you know, cities didn't happen until the I don't know. Yeah, I've been saying a lot without saying anything. All I'm saying is that war's bad. Please don't. Please stop. Unless it's absolutely justified. And we wouldn't have shot first. That okay. I'm sorry for ranting. Okay.
You're fine.
Thank you, Aiden, for telling me that. Anyways, I think your comment did go through. Let me see if it's okay. It hasn't been auto removed yet. But when I did it, it was all capital, like it was like capitalized, like because it was an acronym. So I don't know. Well, we'll inform you as the experiment continues. Um.
In any case,
Someone
But-
else can go on a long tangent now for me to listen.
well,
to
I won't go on
bullshit.
a long tangent, but I was just going to reinforce a little bit and maybe push back a little bit on what you were saying, but I forgot what I was going to say because you kept going on. So
Right. Let's. And of course, we do not advocate for violent overthrow of the American government. We don't even advocate for the overthrow of um
we don't even advocate for the overthrow of American government. We just want it modified slightly.
yeah.
I mean, I think our ideal is kind of like what Charles was saying earlier, that we get together a convention somehow constitutionally and we just fix some stuff.
Yeah, and and that's about the only way we can do it if we were to do it right now. And the thing that we should probably focus on is educating the American people on what the good thing that monarchs have done for what was it? Monarchs have done for the American people, and some of that we have posted a couple of those things through our social media page within the past week. If anybody who knows of any more instances of that, please reply to our Twitter post on the subject. Now, back to our scheduled topics. I don't believe anybody. Does anybody have any final thoughts, or should we take the train to the next topic?
Only final thought is I fear that this is going to get worse before it gets better. And the reason it's going to have to get worse before it gets better is because it's going to have to go beyond the breaking point before people to realize that the Republican experiment is failing or has failed.
Oh, that is the other factor to consider too. I think it's kind of hard for us who live in a like this bubble of being politically involved, and most of the people we know are like at least tangentially politically involved, or we don't bring it up. There are a lot of people out there who really don't care, and And I think there's going to be less and less of those people as things start to affect them. Like as long as they have, they can do whatever in like relative comfort, like they can, get their food and mess around with whatever hobby they like in relative comfort. They aren't going to be affected. But now that they're like, hey, wait a minute, why RTX 480 whatever $1,500 or however much it cost? I don't know how much it costs. I can't afford that. But but those people still exist, and there's probably still a lot of them. To make my point brief, and yeah, they're definitely going to be the people who won't notice until it's actually broke.
Not to
Which it
drag
is.
off
Just needs.
on too much of a tangent from that, but you bring up like such. Oh, it irks me to no end. So those processes, they're all expensive because of crypto farming, right? And like, if you think about it, crypto machines are basically the child's version of what an evil scientist would invent. All they do is they sit there and they make pollution and they burn up energy. And they provide no tangible service whatsoever to the benefit of anyone.
I mean, I don't really know that much about how crypto mining works, but if I'm looking for any excuse to be in cryptocurrency because, well, I don't know, my gold standard. But anyways, I mean, it is the literal gold standard when it comes to currency and all that and monetary policy. I mean, you can't dispute me on this. It is the literal gold standard.
Right. Let I'm
Preston, do you have any
assuming.
final thoughts?
His mic is muted, so I'm going to assume no.
Okay.
So let's talk about something that President Biden has said. He said that he plans to pardon all federal prisoners that are in federal prison on charges of simple possession of marijuana.
They should have never gone to prison for it anyway in the first.
Yeah, I
I
could see
mean,
like fining people for it, but prison
yeah, I mean,
for possession, prison, no. Possession with intent to distribute? Okay, I
Yeah,
can see a case there. But just simple possession, come on. Slap them with like a. I was going to say like a $200 fine, but most people that end up with pot probably are in a sociodemographic area where they probably don't have $200 to spare. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe we do what Sweden does, and if you have to pay a fine, it's a proportion of of your income instead of a flat value. I don't know.
Finland, actually.
Oh, it's
I
in
like that
Finland.
idea.
So, like, if you're a millionaire and you get caught with a speeding ticket, it's not a pittance that you're paying, you know?
I like that. I actually kind of like that idea. I mean, as someone who as someone who kind of thinks like a flat tax rate is a good idea. I think that makes sense. But let's not apply that to like firearm. Well, you shouldn't need to buy a license to carry a firearm anyways. But if we are going to have to keep firearms licenses, let's not apply it to that. Okay, great.
And just to sort of go on the issue here, the reason why people are in jail for simple possession is, I think, classification of marijuana as a particular scheduled drug.
Schedule A, I think.
Which is
Schedule 1.
some people are anticipating or I guess I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for.
Pushing for.
Speculating that this is a prelude to a push to legalize marijuana on the federal level.
I mean,
It would be rather interesting. Darth Kilhoon is here.
Oh,
Oh, hey,
that's another
Darth's
thing
here.
off our
Yay.
bingo.
Yay! Now we have a 2/3 Catholic majority, and there was much rejoicing.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry for being fabulously late, but better late than never.
And now
Yes.
it's your favorite topic.
Oh
Wacky
wait, no, never mind.
Tabacy.
It's Dante showing up, who's on the.
Wait, what are the topics
English
for
movie.
tonight? I know I'm kind of coming off the cuff, so
Okay. We'll speed run through the previous topics. So to give your opinion, hold on. New timestamp.
Here,
Okay.
he can have my.
Supreme Court. Okay. Shh.
He can have my seat.
Oh no, Aiden, stay. We must maintain the 2/3 majority. Anyways,
No, I have to head out anyways. You all have a good podcast.
well, it was fun while it lasted. Okay, bye, Aiden. Take your couples. Bye. Okay. Anyways, so speed run. Supreme Court has let's see. Supreme Court has has decided to not take a case that would have potentially one way or another decided whether or not unborn children have the same rights as any other individual in the country.
hmm. So they decided not to rule on anything with that?
Yeah, and the lower court said no, children don't have rights essentially.
Well, of course, because the courts aren't in favor of Christian
the
social
court in
teaching,
question,
so
if the court in question is the Rhode Island, whatever the Rhode Island highest court is called.
yeah, well, I wouldn't expect that with the Rhode Island High Court, so call me not surprised that they don't consider a child in the womb as a human. Those baby murdering Moloch worshippers.
All right. So, topic number 2. A third of Americans are liable to blame election fraud if his side doesn't win. A third of your average American Joe will blame election fraud if his side doesn't win.
I mean, I don't view any election as legitimate, so I always say that there is fraud in every election, every time, because no election is legitimate.
All right. And now, President Biden has pardoned people for with simple possession of the Wacky Tabacy, otherwise known as the marijuana.
So people can be convicted just for possessing it or not convicted.
Not
He's
convicted.
pardoning people who
Well,
have
he's pardoning
civil
all of
conviction.
them who has
Oh.
been.
Oh, he's pardoning them. Oh, okay. I missed that part. I mean, I take this kind of two ways. I'm like, I take the position that you're either totally extreme on drugs or you're not. You must do one or the other, where it's either total legalization to accelerate the decline, or if you wish to enforce a moralistic society, then it's absolute like public demonstrations of what happens if you have it. So, and then that would be extreme anti-drug and enforcement against it.
My sentiments exactly. Well, the second part, not the accelerationist bit. But yeah, this is the topic we're on right now. So you've been brought up to speed. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's on now then?
The pot topic, the Wacky Tabacy topic.
Oh, well, yeah, you got my opinion. I'm either an accelerationist with it and just total laissez-faire, or or complete brutal crackdown and no drugs at all and complete destruction of any drug infrastructure down to the root cause.
Don't worry, ANCAP Darth Kilhoon isn't real. He can't hurt you.
Oh no.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
So,
What's the fourth scheduled topic, since I completely forgot?
That's a very
actual
good question.
topic is the Saudi Arabian oil crisis, or shall we say Biden's mishandling of Saudi Arabian oil. He apparently tried asking Saudi Arabia to hold off on doing something with their oil until after the midterms because he's got to look good. And Saudi Arabia said no.
I think
This proves that Joe Biden is just Jimmy Carter too. Senile
Electric
bootless.
Boogaloo.
Well,
much of a
he's
boogaloo.
more
I
like
don't
Boris
think-
Yeltsin
Jack.
than anything.
I don't think that Joe Biden is he's kind of also old at this point. I don't think he's going to be able to build Habitat for Humanities after his retirement. I will say that about Jimmy Carter. Apparently, he did a lot of charity work. I don't know about him personally, but I guess building Habitat for Humanity is a worthwhile use of your effort. But anyways, so I don't know, but I think what happened, and I will admit I am not as enlightened as I should be on this news story because I just can't, and also I keep forgetting to ask Darth what news sites to use. But anyways, I think Biden wanted shoot. Okay, I think Biden wanted the Sauds to produce more oil, and the Sauds and that like Arab energy producing consortium are like, let's produce less oil because gas
The
prices are
OPEC
starting to lower.
Association.
OPEC, yeah, I forgot what it was called. Yeah, they're like, let's produce less oil because gas prices are starting to come down.
So I have more here from this is from Jack Posobiec. Saudi Arabia has confirmed that Biden attempted to coerce them to postpone oil cuts until after the midterm.
Oh wow, that's
Pathetic. I'm just gonna say that is pathetic that he actually went to the Saudis and begged them to postpone.
Like, come on, Jack! Don't do that to me.
And explicitly said until after midterms because he needed to make the Democrats look good for midterms.
okay. I don't know what he used, but here's what he should have said. Come on, Jack. Do you want to? We're the ones who are helping fuel your little war in Yemen, man, and you know we wouldn't be so apt to give you guns if you didn't do what I wanted, Jack. Yeah, remember Yemen? That's still going on, I think.
Actually, part of me
So-
is deeply confused why we haven't just colonized the South already.
Because it's a giant desert and we already have one of those.
Because do you want to try to colonize another Muslim tribe like we did in Afghanistan? Our track record isn't that good with
Trying
Muslim
to liberalize the
regions.
Muslims, yeah.
So I mean, I'm frankly I'd be on the side of Islam in that case if somebody tried to liberalize them like we did. So there's
Yeah, I mean that's really
liberalism and Islam. I'm like weighing the options like either you take the culture breaking spirit of liberalism or you take Islam. I'd much rather take Islam.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very much you know, both.
It's like
you end up
poison,
losing either way, kind of thing.
But like one poison is like, like it's not as bad and like you're probably gonna survive the poison, while then the other one's from like a king cobra that's gonna kill you in a couple seconds, like liberalism. So
Your own adventure.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyways, I don't know. I mean, but like I was saying earlier, about this, I mean, are you really surprised that Biden's using foreign policy as a tool to try to win? Like I said, they just want to win. I mean, they'll pay lip service to the idea of the rules. Well, like, I mean, which in fairness probably be something that I mean, I don't think I would pay lip service to the idea of the rules if I was running for town mayor. I would say, listen, guys, honestly, I would if there was like a suitable family to hand this over to who like were aristocratic in nature, I would just like have a noble make them nobles and have them run the town. But we don't live in that reality, so vote for me, I guess. That'd be my campaign slogan.
So I mean, with that whole, I mean, the thing that Americans try to idealize politics. And the idealization of politics to this degree has blinded them to how politics actually is. Like most Americans can realize, like, yeah, government, like, they don't have our interest and yada yada, but they won't like realize that the system as is operates in a certain manner that is against their that is against the well, what's the best term for this? Against the interests of the ruled. So they just consent to the current system because they idealize it to such a degree because it's literally part of their mythology from like my constitution, my founding fathers, my American regalia, and they can't separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to the government. That politics, you kind of have to play for power because that's how democracy always is. It's a power play. And especially the right has refused to play in power politics and we're just going to abide by the rules. We're not going to get into we're not going to fight our enemies on the same playing field, like even though the enemy is willing to use these tactics to gain and hold on to power permanently. Oh no, we're too above that. We have principles as soon as like just look at Alex Jones the other day. He literally got charged nearly $1 billion by the court, which essentially they chose that number so that way he'd be permanently dead to permanently silence him because he's a political enemy to the establishment. So you permanently destroy your enemies like they did with Alex Jones. And the right just has refused to play that game, and that's why they've lost every single time.
Do you want to be a good-mannered loser, or do you actually want a country at the end of it? Is the question the Republicans have to ask themselves.
Do you want to make the hard questions, or do you want to live, or do you just want to be? It's too above me to participate in such games as you're being dragged to the gallows.
Yeah, I mean, here's something I kind of already said before, but let me just say it more bluntly. Republicans, America is not the Constitution. It's not the Bill of Rights. It's not even necessarily the people who made us that. There are good things in elements of that. There are good things in the Constitution. There are good things in the Bill of Rights. Notice that a lot of those things were already common law precedent already, but I digress. But America is a land and it is a people. Okay? And at the end of the day, you have to do what is the best for that land and that people. And if the rules of the game are inhibiting you from doing what is best for this country, then the rules of the game need to be ignored. Because at the end of the day, it's not a game. It's not, a wee bit of the footy or whatnot.
The only time you can play games is if both sides actively follow the rules, and once somebody chooses to forgo the rules and just wanting to win, then it's no longer a game and it's a power struggle.
Yeah,
so you need to fight to win at that point. You don't just and you need to gain the power to succeed and permanently put down your foe as soon as it ceases being a game. Like politics is no longer a game, it's a war. And in a war, like this is a total war as well. You can't just have a treaty between both sides in this case. It is absolute warfare for the political destiny of the nation.
And and I think this is something that people also struggle with because I think a lot of people, especially maybe the boomers, because they're still kind of in that reality or they grew up in the last vestiges of that reality. But we're not dealing with two sides that share the same worldview anymore. We're dealing with we're not dealing with two sides that share relatively the same worldview, and they're just like, oh, we should raise taxes 0.5%, or oh, no, we should lower taxes 0.5%. We're not dealing with that. Okay, that's just mundane. Okay, in comparison, we're dealing with people who have
a different ontological view of the world.
a different foundational view of the world.
Weltanschauung.
And yeah, I'll let Will say something if he wants, because I have a feeling he will want to say something.
I mean, on this topic, all I gotta say is, when it comes to playing by the rules, it's nice sentiment, I've always said this when it comes to like rules, etiquette, and honor. When ask those who, I don't know how to word what I want to say, but basically honor and following the rules matters very, very little when there's a life and death situation, or when a situation is dire and you have to do what is necessary in order to survive.
I mean, partially true in that case, but I mean, like, the whole idea of honor. So, honor exists when both warriors, when essentially both warriors know what their divine responsibility is, and know what, and have taken the same oath, even if they have taken the same oath, they bear the same honor, even if they're of different kingdoms, and they know that they must respect the enemy because he is a warrior, because he is your foe, because he is your equal, and he stands there also bravely at a man at arms. Like that's honor is kind of like a hard thing to explain, but you just kind of know it, you feel it, and you know that this in current politics there is no such thing as honor because we have foregone honor in politics. This is an ideological power struggle where any method of control is used to gain it.
Anyway, I've got to
Honor.
hop off here, guys. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Yes. Good night.
I believe. So, do we have? So the thing that, like, uh, do we have any final thoughts on the topic?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, it's stupid.
So after
Our
we
foreign
clear the
policy isn't. I don't know. It's dumb. Let's move it.
all right.
If
Let's.
anyone has no final thoughts,
Of course.
because I
Let's.
think Prussian. Did you have something? I thought you were going to say something.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
All right. So, now I'm going to ask Prussian to say something if there's no objection.
Say what?
The poll, and I will allow Darth Kilhoon to provide a defense for his answer, and I will allow Prussian to provide a defense for his answer.
So, for those of you who aren't in our Discord server, also join the Discord server. We love talking to people. For those who haven't, a poll was recently put up just about 2 days ago in the server in which we asked, would you rather have a Catholic republic or a Protestant monarchy? By Protestant, we mean any denomination, doesn't really matter which one you choose. And the results came back with roughly a fourth saying that they would rather not have a Protestant monarchy, but rather a Catholic republic or even neither. So yeah. And of the people who said that they would much rather a Catholic republic, one of those was Darth, and so we're gonna let Darth tell us about his opinion on that.
So I mean, that was kind of like I barely put Catholic Republic because it's like, I mean, it was the fact that it was any denomination. It's like, what are we gonna have like an Anabaptist king? It's like, yeah, no, I would not have that. But if it was like, say, I could tolerate, like a Lutheran king, like the Hohenzollerns, um, I could tolerate that, or like maybe even at the extreme, like the Dutch monarchy, which is like technically Calvinistic. And I also do like Charles III, and I could probably tolerate the Anglican system, but it's like the fact that it was any denomination, that's why I was like, I don't know, because I know like a lot of crazy Protestant sects, so that's why tacitly went with the
And of
Catholic
course,
Republic.
yes, and of course, when Prussian sent the question in, he didn't specify. So,
Yeah.
Well,
so
I'll let Vic say before I say what my thoughts are.
right. So when I looked at that question, my first thought was, okay, it was assumed that by Protestant it was meant High Church Protestant, but of course the question didn't give us that.
No, it said any denomination though.
Prussian didn't specify anything, so I just assumed it meant any denomination.
Yeah, that's what I meant anyways. I just meant generic, any denomination you want to choose from.
Right.
That
So-
we would want to choose from. Well, I mean, then I would have gone with the Protestant monarchy because it would have been like, okay, well then it would have been like an Anglican or like a Prussian, but that would be like the only two I'd go for. For
Like
Protestant
high church
monarchs.
ones.
Yeah,
The ones
essentially,
that
and
like
also
at
like
least
ones
pay
with
lip service.
yeah, and also yeah, I mean also King Charles III is a radical traditionalist, so that's I kind of like him for that. But
Come on, Charles, dissolve Parliament.
yes, just dissolve that Parliament. Take the power back for the crown. Rule by divine right. I beg of you.
I will consider you almost as cool as the actual Charles III.
He
Scratch
wasn't
that
Charles
off your
III, but
bingo.
okay.
Well, we're
Anyway.
talking about like the play show thing that the BBC did.
Well, that's not what he meant.
Oh,
wait, hold on, wait, Darth, hold on one second, Darth. Did you watch Charles III, the play?
No, I haven't entirely. I've watched part of it.
Oh, I've watched the whole thing.
Is it well acted?
It's amazing.
I can't find it like anywhere. Like that's why I only watched
I got it. I was able to see it on
PBS.
Yeah, I saw it. I was able to get it on Amazon, like the movie version of it. Like me and my parents were able to watch it off of Amazon.
Who watches PBS? Yeah. So wait, Vic, do you have anything to say before? Okay.
And like, it's almost like this question is sort of it's telling. It's telling because if we are able to choose the Protestant denomination, then the answer is quite simple. But if we can't choose the Protestant denomination, or it basically play grab bag and pick and let the computer pick the denomination, then Catholic Republic got some votes. That probably could be why there are some votes for that. But that is up to each individual vote.
I mean, like, I was thinking, like, in a Catholic Republic, it's like, okay, so Catholic Republic, that would probably mean it'd be like a government run by the bishops. Like, that'd be my guess. So, in that case, it's like, oh, okay, so it's like, I would be okay with the Republic if it was, like, run by bishops, essentially, and didn't have a monarch.
Mr. Pope President. Anyways,
or Bishop Sheen becomes an American dictator, like in Kaiser Redux.
That is a good timeline. I think that I would, if all like the Catholic American options except the Jacobite one, I would probably pick that one. I mean, I do like me some Bishop Sheen.
Right.
But
of course, the 30 days have passed, so it's fair game.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said the real Charles III. But anyway, and that's why I also said scratch it off your bingos. But anyways, as a Jacobite, no. I guess my thoughts.
Huh?
Huh?
So would you stop with it?
I
I mean,
can't.
I was asked the other day just in like conversation because I said I was intellectually a monarchist, and of course the guy said, "Well, if America was a monarchy, who would you make the American king?" And it's like, "Well, I wouldn't make any American." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like, "Well, import I'd import an actual person of royal blood of." And then they're like, "Well, who then?" I said, "Well, maybe like a Stuart." And then they actually knew what the Stuarts were, so
Wow.
Dang,
Point for
dang, an
them.
American. That's amazing that an American actually knows what a steward is.
I mean,
yeah,
in
I was
fairness,
surprised.
well, I was going to say in fairness if you're a Rail fan, but I highly doubt that there are anyone who knows what the clans were. It'd be our standard types. Anyways, no, well, my thoughts on the poll is honestly, I kind of thought the question, my problem with the was mainly, what do you mean by Catholic Republic? Because I took it more in the perspective of a republic run by Catholics, but like in a Catholic majority state or whatever. Now, if you meant like Catholics of the 1400s, who knew their theology, well enough, they knew, because back in the day you used to be required, and you may still be required to know the Apostles' Creed, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Ten Commandments, the six precepts of the Church, and the doctrine of the sacraments. It used to be a mortal sin to be willfully ignorant of those. I don't know if it still is or not, but especially seeing as how we dropped that sixth precept. Apparently, well, I don't know if we dropped it; just people forgot it existed. But anyways,
The sixth precept was basically
well, I know what
amended
it
to
is.
say to know the church's law regarding wedding.
Well, I think in the Catechism they don't even mention it at all. I don't know.
Right. Of course,
Anyways,
this is
this is
the
this is
law.
beside the point. Well, anyways, are you talking about a bunch of Catholics who actually, know what the church says, especially on like matters relating to politics, like where you have who was which I think it was one of the Pope Piuses who said
I
the
think it
separation
was
of church and state is an
Pope Pius
error.
the Ninth.
Oh yeah, syllabus of errors. Yeah, it's like error 50 something. The state should be separated from the church and the church from the state, because church documents are always written in a way that it states the error without saying, you have to append, it is an error to believe that, then what's on the list.
I mean,
But
also like
anyway,
Saint Thomas Aquinas like talks about politics as well in his writings, so there's also that. If you want to go to him, the
yeah.
great doctor of the church. But
Yeah, so no, I mean, so if it's a bunch of Catholics who know what the church says and are politically in tune with the Catholic Church on matters of faith and morals, um, then probably the Catholic Republic, because let's be honest, that group of people would probably just put nobles in charge at some point, anyways, because they would look at Catholic political history and they would say, yeah, as much as we enjoy uh doing things, it might be better just to have people who know how to do things politically and have them do it full time, while we could get back to sowing our fields and building our furniture and running our towns, maybe.
And this is the main issue with a republic government to begin with, is that in a republic, you need to be politically informed in order to properly elect your representative who is going to pass laws and whatnot.
I mean,
Well,
a republic doesn't necessarily mean that it has like, oh, you elect representatives to government. A republic can take many forms, but it's a form of government that doesn't have a monarch as its head of state. So like in this case it'd be like, okay, a Catholic republic could be like, a republic with a Catholic with where bishops are the legislatures essentially. Like you could have that. Like that's like technically it would still be a republican system because it
And of
doesn't
yeah.
have the
course,
Well,
and of
but
monarch.
course, related to this, a point made by one of our Discord members, Vincent, who is getting his master's or his doctorate degree in history, when we asked a question about the informed voter. The ideal of and I'm quoting him now, this will be a long quote. The ideal of the informed voter is a myth, since one must be involved in the business of state in order to understand it. So electing the highest office in the land means reducing said office through a popularity contest, which can only be won by those who are willing to deceive the public, with false promises. Second of all, the 8-year limit on terms in office. This is comparing president to monarch specifically. Second of all, the 8-year limit on terms in office means that it's impossible for a president to plan for the long-term future, since he will be out of office before plans are implemented, and it strongly incentivizes irresponsible short-term policies like ballooning the debt out of control or begging the Saudis to keep their oil production up until after the midterms, since he'll be out of office before he sees the consequences of those policies. Third, the 4-year election cycle pits ill-informed voters into an ideological contest of competing political fantasies, which turns brothers and countrymen into enemies fighting over the future of their nation, sometimes even to the point of leaning destruction upon it, riots, civil war, etc. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the differences between a monarch and a president. And I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I thought it was incredibly
succinct.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was gonna say because people are like, I guess people might be wondering what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, if you mean Catholic in that your average American Catholic, then no.
Yeah,
Because
then
most American Catholics are Americanist, and we all know about
which
Americanism.
is a discussion we can have at a different time, what
But
Americanism is.
the long and the short of it is essentially, actually, I can pull up the brief synopsis from the piece itself, but I'll let people talk whilst I do that because I have so many bookmarks in my Denzinger. It's not even funny. So, talk amongst yourselves.
So yeah, I mean, if it was the average,
Bishop in Flanders just said that that gay marriage was fine.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Like, I wouldn't trust the modern American Bishops Conference to run the show. Like, there are a couple great bishops out there still, but the Pope needs to start doing a little bit of the bonk. But I did find it. Okay, it's with the bookmark. My bookmark is Dynasty Marqueux, One Coat, by Bear. It's a paint chip. Since we were repainting the house, we got a lot of paint chips. But anyways, okay. The basis of the new opinion that we have mentioned is established essentially as this. In order that those who dissent may more easily be brought over to Catholic wisdom, the Church has come closer to the humanity of a more mature age, relaxing her old severity, manifest indulgence towards the beliefs and opinions of people that have recently been introduced. Moreover, many think this should be understood not only with regard to the standard of living, but even with regard to the doctrines in which the deposit of faith is contained. For they contend that it is opportune to win over those who are in disagreement, if certain topics of doctrine are passed over as lesser importance, or are so softened that they do not retain the same sense as the church has always held. Essentially, these people are the people who will kind of sidestep issues and not fully disclose what Catholic doctrine means because they think it will win people over, and essentially what the Episcopalians have been doing with how they keep mudding down, their doctrines to the point where they don't really stand for anything. That's essentially Americanism.
yep. I mean that is the degrading nature of the American spirit. It is always degrading to the lowest common denominator instead of keeping the pure radiant and truthful in its original form. That's what America does. It's very toxic. And that's why I'm very against. I'm very anti-Americanist. I like Americanism, the ideology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for those of you who want to look that up, it's letter. Just look up letter to the Archbishop of Baltimore, 22nd January 1899, and you should get it. 13 or 3340 in at least what I think is the newest copy of the Denzinger by Ignatius. Yeah, so if you want to look that up and read the whole thing for yourself. But yeah, Americanism, bad. Catholic
Right.
integralism, good.
Even like I would tacitly say like Prussian Lutheran monarchism is like still better than Americanism.
Well, yeah, because the Americanists would collaborate with the Lutherans.
Well, I mean also the fact that Americanism sought out to destroy the Prussian spirit. That means there was probably something good to Prussian militarism.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing too.
I also I put in the chat a picture of elderly Kaiser Wilhelm II holding his grandson. It's quite adorable.
That's a cute baby. I mean, well, what I was gonna say is, if you really want to get upset, during the Spanish-American War, okay, so Spain at this time, I don't know if it was in its liberal monarchy phase or if it was, but either way, by comparison, it was way more Catholic than were or are. And like the head of the American college in priest college in Rome or some guy was writing to that guy and he's like,
The North American Pontifical North American College of Rome, I think is what it's called.
I guess, I don't know. But he was either he or someone was writing to him saying like, "Oh, this is great because we're overthrowing this old European order," and it's like, guys, this is the this is a Catholic monarchy we're talking about. You'll notice that all the Cuban revolutionaries who are buried in Florida in like this one cemetery, they're not buried in the Catholic section. They're buried in the Freemason section. There's a like there's a tiny, isn't there just a tiny itty bitty little cause for concern there that that all the revolutionaries who we were backing were literal Freemasons, and you know how Freemasons view the Catholics. Like, could, please, guys, I blame Archbishop Ireland, but anyways, well, I don't know. He wasn't the cause of the problem. The problem was really
There's a lot
there was a lot of
of
causes.
blame to go around.
He's probably just the most well-known example of the problem, which is weird, you know, Archbishop Ireland being the ultimate Americanist. This is why you shouldn't have countries as your last name. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly wish that we just had like 1,000 Bishop Sheens for all the American bishops, but that'd be a little too idealistic.
Every bishop a sheen, a bishop a sheen in every a bishop sheen in every diocese, a father Vianney in every parish.
You know, like I kind of harp against Bishop Barron. I was just thinking, but if this was like a Catholic integralist nation, it would actually be good to have bishops like Bishop Barron because he's kind of like, you know, like a soft-spoken. He doesn't really question like the status quo of the church. He just kind of like wants to get more people into the church. It's like, you know, that would actually be like that's like the ideal for like a bishop in a time of like good Catholic social virtue. But in this time you do need like a million Bishop Sheens to be running the church to essentially just lay down the law. That's
I do. Oh, sorry.
Oh, do any of you know Bishop Barron?
Oh yeah. I watched him.
Yes.
I mean, I don't watch him as often as I used to, but I did see part of his interview with Shia LaBeouf because r/Catholic memes was like, Shia LaBeuf, and it was
As
like,
soon as
oh,
Shia LaBeouf said, "Oh, the Latin Mass inspired me to
yeah.
convert."
It's like and then it was like it looks like some there was like a SpongeBob meme. It's Shia LaBeouf on the
Yes.
Shia LaBeouf on the Norvis Odo. It looks like someone is trying to sell me something. I told you he was onto us. No, but no, I did jump on the bandwagon. I knew exactly what to say. A Shia surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. No, but besides his and it isn't bad once you hear his explanation, but the whole "dare we hope all men be saved" thing, I mean, once you hear the explanation, it's not bad, but it's definitely one of those things that you there are things that aren't problematic in of themselves, but unless you provide context, they kind of sound heretical. And I mean, what he explained, so that's nice. But there are things that I have said in the past. I don't know if I said them on air. If I did, I'll probably remove them or put an edit in the comments or something. But yeah, that's a danger. You never want to reduce theology to a 1 second like tagline or to a 1 sentence tagline, and I don't think he did. But other than that, dare we hope all men be saved thing. I do like Bishop Barron, especially like really early Bishop Barron, when he was like removed, like just like reviewing movies back when it was still Father Barron at that point. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like Bishop Barron getting his own diocese is rather interesting at this point.
I
Wait,
think
which
he's in
diocese did he get? It was out in.
it's in
Winona,
Minnesota.
Rochester.
It's in Minnesota. I know that.
Oh, he must be freezing because he's spent like the past few years in California. So
From his and no report on Bishop Barron can be complete without mentioning, at least in passing, that Bernardine is at least a little bit responsible for Barron. I think Barron's from Chicago, and I think
oh
Bernardine
yeah,
may have had an influence on him, but that is, but that
isn't it?
influence, I don't know how far it went.
Oh, I will also say that I do like how Bishop Barron is intellectual. I do like that he covers philosophy because it breaks away, and this is something he's noticed too, is that he really. And one thing I appreciate about him and a lot of other people in the church nowadays is they're breaking away from this like feel good Catholicism that was like poured out in the 70s and
Catholicism,
whatnot.
you mean?
What?
The boomer Catholicism, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, that boomer Catholicism that even I kind of grew up with to a certain extent. Because I remember like in first or second, it would have been first grade, yeah, watching this video of like a lady and children dancing around and putting rosaries on their neck rather than explaining what the rosary is. And of course, I mean, I don't know, maybe it had an effect that I say a rosary every day. I don't think that's the reason I say a rosary every day, but if it is, I guess good on that video. But no, but that sort of feel good Catholicism and knowing that it's not it is a religion that that encompasses everything, that can encompass everything because it was because God created the universe, so obviously everything deep and I don't know how to really describe myself, but I look at the missal that I have, and it's one of those missiles that also has a bunch of prayers that are not associated with the mass. But all these prayers, they're not the kind of prayer that I would have been taught with that sort of feel good Catholicism. like the my favorite, where is it? Hold on. It's right. Yeah, okay. Okay. One of my favorite prayers like recently has been the Canticles of Simeon. Which if you guys don't mind, I think I'll well, I mean I like to say it when I remember to when the priest does the consecration, because it applies. It's a really short prayer, so I also
Lord,
say it.
now doth dismiss thy servant.
Yeah, well now thou dost dismiss thy servant, O Lord, according to thy word in peace, because my eyes have seen thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all peoples, a light of revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel. Um that okay, it's a short prayer, okay? And it it doesn't even use that many like complicated words, yet it conveys so much. I mean, and I think that's a really great prayer to say when the priest does the consecration, when he elevates the host so you can see it, especially if the priest is doing the mass facing away from the people like he would be in the Latin mass, or even more reverent, or even more traditional oriented Novus Ordos. And you would really only see the host once the priest holds it up, because during the consecration, or after he says the words of consecration. Because you remember that you're seeing who Simeon saw in that moment. You're seeing Christ, just under a veil of bread and later wine. Although you really don't see the veil of wine because you see the chalice. But anyways, and a little water mixed in for the. I mean, it just But that.
The minutia can
Yeah,
be discussed.
I know. I just remember from reading from the. I recently reread part of the decree for the Armenians, and then something else put it into my mind after that. But anyways, yeah, no, I mean it's these kinds of prayers um that we were never taught. Um and it wasn't all bad because my mother went to school in the 70s, in elementary school in the 70s, and she was taught the St. Michael prayer and the memorial prayer. Um but these sorts of prayers, they're not really associated with that feel good Catholicism, and yet these are so much deeper. I mean, it's like you listen to any modern Catholic song that you get out of your generic missal, and they're just, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're just so simple. I mean, you take um you take all of these old chants and whatnot, and the words are simple too, but they convey something so much deeper, like the prayer in the mass for the dead. Deliver me, O Lord, from death eternal. And I think I don't have it saved because I only get 6 bookmarks. um but yeah, no, I mean it's,
You
and then
get
there's
you get 6 ribbons.
6 ribbons, sorry.
You can get
Okay.
you can put more bookmarks in there.
Yeah, well, not what. Well, I carried around. I carried the missile around the case, so that would get a little awkward. Really be. But no, I mean all of these old prayers, and I'm really sad that we don't have the sequence anymore. Really, well, I don't know. And all these parts, and all of these things that were just cut out or removed, like the Confiteor was cut down. And it used to be you would have to say the Kyrie and the Confiteor. And I'm probably not saying that right because
This is all sort of Catholic minutiae.
well, I mean, I guess it still stands to the whole point about the good, the true, and the beautiful, and that needs to be preserved. And I think that's why traditionalism, both in terms of religion and politics, are sort of on the rise, because I think a lot of us are realizing, because we've gotten to the point where we're dealing with the empty shells of a lot of things, and we're wondering how we got here. And in the process of doing that, we look and we see, those older expressions of the Catholic faith. Now, of course, it's different. The Catholic faith is different from the American Republic, in that the Catholic faith is always true, and the Catholic Church has never dogmatically taught error. But whereas the American Republic is just there.
It
But
was founded on the very thing that was declared an enemy of the church.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, but both in terms of religion, I don't know. I'll ask you later. But both in terms of religion and in terms of politics, I think a lot of us young folks are looking back and we're reclaiming something. We're reclaiming our inheritance, but it's an inheritance that we're not directly inheriting from our father, like from our parents. It's an inheritance we're getting. We have to get from our great grandparents, and probably even before that. Especially for people who've lived in America for a really long time. Um, and had to suffer through Protestantism in England for a longer time before that. Well, we're dealing with um this this I don't know. I mean, we're starting to notice, and I really should just shut up. But we're looking and we're seeing all of this beautiful stuff that previous generations didn't appreciate, and that previous generations, for
I
some
will
reason, wanted to
end.
ditch entirely.
I will end with a quote from Pope Benedict XVI on that. I believe this quote is from his letter that accompanied Summorum Pontificum, what earlier generations held as sacred, and I'm paraphrasing, is still sacred today. That, I think, is the crux of what your point was.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone who can say what I'm saying more concisely. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so much, and people probably. I mean, how many people have left the church because they feel that it isn't that was just because people in it were just trying to baby them, you know?
Old Chesterton wrote that there are 1,000 Catholics that have left the church because of what the church is. Millions have left the Catholic Church for what they think it is.
Yeah, and that I mean that's the real shame there, and that's why a decision to become a bishop or a priest, you don't really decide on your own to become a bishop, but which is probably fortuitous, but but the decision to become a priest is not something that should be taken lightly, because I mean, if it's your vocation, it's your vocation. But you have to remember that as a priest, for a lot of people, you are going to be the faith, or the all the when someone has questions, when a man has questions, he's going to go to you. Of course, now with the days of with the internet, sites like Catholic Answers and all that, it's lessened. But a lot of people are still going to go to you. And if you're a heretic, and you can make your nonsense sound convincing enough, then you're probably going to get a lot of souls damned. There's a risk of getting a lot of souls damned. How many people were
Hello,
lost
Arius.
because? I mean, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, no, I mean, like looking at the Protestant Reformation, how many souls were lost because priests um just went along with the heretics that the bishops did, and rather than saying, actually, Your Excellency, this Luther guy is kind of nuts, and if you don't cut it out, I'm gonna ask Rome to like maybe let me not be obedient to you. Well, you're supposed to be obedient in all things but sin, and Lutheranism would be a sin. But how many people were lost? Um, because priests started spouting his own mouth off without consulting things. I mean, that's why right now, if a bishop just showed up and like, okay, you're getting ordained, I would probably be a terrible priest, because I form opinions and I usually check, and I will always say this is my opinion, but a lot of people will ignore the "this is my opinion" bit and just take what I say without any salt. Salt. Okay, I'll shut up now.
All right. I think
Darth hasn't had a chance to say anything in a while.
It just kind of sounded like a ramble at a certain point, so I kind of like tuned it out for a bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
did you want to so now that we are here, let's discuss the calendar. Like what's coming up?
What about the calendar?
Well, there's 365 days, except every 4 years, where there's
Let's
366, unless it's divisible by.
well, let's see. We just had the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary last week. We have All Saints Day coming up on November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular feasts that are major feasts I'm missing here?
Have we
Trying
already
to
gone through
think.
the traditional Feast of Christ the King?
The traditional Feast of Christ the King is October 30th this year.
Okay.
And the traditional Feast of Christ the King is the last Sunday in October. In the calendar that has been in force since the Second Vatican Council, it is always the last Sunday of the church year, which is pretty much always the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Okay. And then it's Catholic New Year's. You know, people always say, haha, New Year's, and people are like, they will travel to this one specific time zone to start New Year's before everyone else, while at the same time we Catholics get to laugh because we were in New Year's for like over a month before everyone else. So
I mean,
joke's on you guys.
Technically, the government's New Year starts October 1st, so think about that as well.
New Year government.
Well, no, like it's called the fiscal year. Like technically, the fiscal year is how the government determines like what year it is for them. So like technically, we're in fiscal year 2023 right now because October 1st is the turnover. I only know this because I'm a government employee, so any changes that happens in the government happens on October 31st. I mean, on October 31st, October 1st.
So, well, that's lame. But at the same time, I'll just ignore it because, like I said earlier, the American Republic is only the current American government is only somewhat legitimate in the sense that it's the one that actually is capable of enforcing any sort of law right now. So I'll just pretend that whole fiscal year 2023 thing doesn't count and say we Catholics get New Year's first, and the Chinese are fashionably late to the party. But right, they're fashionably late, right? Like they have their New Year's sometime in January or something.
February, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, anyways, they're fashionably late, and that's good for them. I mean, they do have one of the oldest civilizations. They can do what they want. But anyways, well, not religiously speaking, repent and submit to Rome. But anyways,
let's Darth, did you have anything else you wanted to speak about before we close?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Alright.
Wait.
Okay.
Nah, never mind. It's not important.
All right, so this week, Charles Coulomb, I believe, is in the great state of Texas. And we welcome those of you in the imperial family of House Habsburg that are at the Habsburg Symposium in Dallas, Texas this weekend. Be safe while you're over here and make sure to eat lots and lots of good Texas-sized barbecue.
and also maybe consider funding a up-and-coming American monarchist political organization. Hint, hint. No, I'm joking. I mean, hey, we're getting some actual royal backing.
They have
Prince
funded a
Edward
lot. They have
Habsburg.
funded a lot. They have funded a lot of our churches. They were a proud supporter of the Redemptorists, and they funded my parish when it was opening up. So
Actually, I would love it if, because my parish was kind of Vatican II-ified. Well, it's not a parish anymore; it's an oratory. But I would kind of. It wasn't necessarily the most beautiful. The old parish, which is now the cafeteria, would actually look better. But anyways, no. But I would just love it if the Habsburg showed up and said, "Hello." I need to stop putting things right where they can fall. Hello, Father. I am the local representative of the Habsburg clan, and here's a lot of money. Make sure you put in the altar rail, and
that is
because
a
our
really
altar
bad
rail
German
was.
accent, buddy.
I know it's terrible, but no, but actually though, our altar rail, yeah, we don't know what happened to it, but that's another story. You know what? For once,
The
I think
altar
I've done
rail
enough
was
rambling.
probably either destroyed or was in a storage unit.
Yeah, well, father never told the people where it went. Like it was just removed over a weekend, I guess. Well, I guess not a weekend because people go to mass on the weekends. But no, I mean, I guess it was just removed like overnight because no one knew where it went, and I don't even think anyone had even knew he was planning on removing it. So we're like, of course, I wasn't around. That was like 30 years, 30, 40 years before my time. But anyways, I've done enough
Uh,
rambling. Except for the
right.
outro, then I get to ramble one last time.
All right. So the and something that I just kind of thought of. Let's comment a little bit now that it's all Catholics. Now that all the prots are away, let's just comment a little bit. I think on the apparently the Irish seminary doesn't have a lot of people in it. And I
Um,
think the rector of their seminary, there's only one seminary for the whole country. And I think the rector of their seminary is very anti-traditionalist.
yeah, that would
Yeah,
explain it.
yeah. I mean that's Ireland for you. I mean, I Ireland's kind of a sad case because they used to be one of the most fervent realms of our church, and since the because the Irish today bend their entire identity on just being anti-English, like they because the English persecuted them, like especially under Cromwell. That's why their identity is like that. They also threw out anything that is like a traditional anything. So like that's why the Irish they became Republicans instead of like most of the original Irish independence movements, like way before like when they actually before they got independence, were monarchists and they wanted to establish like an Irish kingdom. But then that got taken over by Republicans because they just viewed because eventually people just viewed like, oh, monarchy, you mean like the British, kind of like how Americans are like, oh, don't you mean like the British? It's just like, and you just gotta have to like sigh and roll your eyes, and whenever you try to
And
talk
a
about
lot
it to
of
those people.
and a lot of Irish people I've learned don't even know their own history. They
Oh yeah,
just
that's becoming more common now. But I mean, they used to like believe in their history, but like warp it in a weird historical dialectic where it's like, oh, and some of them try to spin as like, oh, Irish people have always been kind of like this degenerate, so we should just keep that essentially. We should just constantly degrade everything that's traditional and destroy our people's national spirit, etc. So that infesting their seminary and the church, like it's just kind of entropy at a time. You can only be a bulwark for so long, but if you're getting no reinforcements, the wall is eventually going to fall. It's kind of like Constantinople, where it held out for a long time, but eventually just there's nobody to man the walls anymore, and it comes crashing down.
Yeah.
to
Ireland.
and we would like to congratulate everyone. And I think I read somewhere that there was even an Irishman that was admitted into the SSPX seminary.
Let's not get into the whole SSPX thing.
Yeah,
Well,
this is for a completely different podcast. Anyway, Charles, do the outro and get us out.
Okay, I guess I'll just say one final thing on the Irish thing before we wrap up and let you two see if you have any final thoughts. Charles Kilhoon noted that if the third of Irishmen who voted against legalizing abortion had moved to Northern Ireland, you would simultaneously make Northern Ireland majority Catholic, which apparently Catholicism is the largest religion in Northern Ireland now. But that's not because of converts. Generally, that's because of all the nuns. NONES, not NUNs. And you would ensure that abortion would stay out of Northern Ireland forever. So, my Irish friends, get the heck out, leave regular, either find a way to take back regular Ireland ASAP, or just yeet yourselves over to Northern Ireland and try monarchy. It comes highly recommended. All right, so no one has any final thoughts.
So, I mean, just to go on that, like, I've just been kind of like seeing this memes roll around like in the general Catholic sphere of like, the different generations, like versions of like cradle and convert Catholics, like, boomer cradle Catholic versus boomer convert. Gen X cradle Catholic, which is kind of like a nihilist, etc. But then a Gen X convert, which is like kind of like a hippie but like super devout Catholic. But then you get to Gen Z, our generation, this new one that's coming up. That's coming into adulthood now, like myself, and I know a lot of us in this server. And just because the modern world has kind of failed us, I do have some. I don't say that we're going to be like, oh, this right wing traditionalist generation, but there is going to be a concerted cohort within this generation that are going to be more fervorous and more, well, let's just say more radical in unique ways that's actually more traditionalist than we've seen in the last few generations. That's why like there's the memes of like the Gen Z cradle Catholic is like a super like Deus Vult let's go retake Jerusalem Catholic, and then also the convert Gen Z is also like that because there's just kind of like this strand of traditionalism coming back, but through the youth. I think that's kind of like that longing that's been destroyed by the boomers, and we wish to bring it back. We wish to see the true beauty of the old world like endure and come back, and we're going to bring it back essentially by force, making the others kicking and screaming along the way. That's why like a lot of youth also like adopt very like let's just say unorthodox political opinions, especially in America. It's like we have like monarchists in America. It's like I know they've always existed, but like not in these numbers. It's like now like what, like 1 in 20 Americans are monarchists now. It's
Or
like
at least support, or at least would tolerate the idea. I don't know. I just think there's more, but there are more of us than there probably would have been in 1910.
but it's like this weird paradigm shift because prior like people had just gone with the politics so that they were raised with, but now people are just like, no, we have been betrayed by our past generations, and we used to have something greater. We used to have something that we could actually strive for and be proud of, that we had like these great cathedrals, that we had this enduring church, so we've had great kings of the past that went out and performed great glories and ruled with true honor and virtue. It's like that's just something the youth is desiring now because we've just been failed time and time again by like the boomers, the greatest generation, yada yada, all these generations that came before us that led us down this path.
And
So I just wanted to bring that up because it's been on my mind for like this past week at least.
And I will just say this one final thing, because I know we want to wrap up here. But people will say, but you gotta, respect for your elders and whatnot. Well, the current living elders in our society, generally speaking, are the ones who didn't listen to their elders. So we are listening to our elders. It's just that we're listening to the, you know, the long dead elders, and we're inheriting their wisdom when our parents wouldn't teach it to us. Yeah. Yeah. I guess now none of us have anything else to say, and I can put the final 2 timestamps in.
Just to like go on your point there, it's I mean, yes, respect your elders, but your elders are wrong. Like they can be wrong. You can respect them, but you don't have to submit necessarily to their wrongness essentially. Like they were wrong about government. They were wrong about their ideology. They were wrong about like the sexual revolution. These are things to reject, not to respect. Like their ideas were toxic that destroyed the world. And that doesn't mean that you're like disrespecting them, you're just rejecting their ideas, you know.
Still help them cross the street. That's nice.
Help them cross the street, but when they say, "Well, why don't you whippers you guys should be enjoying yourselves. You should be having promiscuous sex like I did," and like that's what the youth do. Aren't you guys supposed to be rebelling and
Oh,
yada
I'll
yada?
enjoy myself, Grandma. Here's a bus. Here's the number 7 bus that's coming our way. Ever hear the expression "chucking someone under the bus"? No, don't chuck
But
people under the bus. And also, my
but
grandmother's
just
nice.
like, you know, like there's like I see this all the time. It's like, oh well, go out and party, go like have fun. Like I hear this all the time from like my Gen X parents, and it's just like, well, I don't want to live just a life of endless hedonism, dopamine rushes, and emptiness, and like you getting married like later in life. It's like, no, I want to live something fulfilling. I want to have a true existence, a true life that I can be proud of instead of you that's sulking in middle age saying, "Oh, I didn't get all the dopamine hits that I wanted." It's like, you know, that's you're in this case because you overindulged yourself in the past. You allowed your hedonism to sprout forth, and now you don't know how to cope with the fact that you can't have those highs anymore. And it was actually the ideas of restraints that you didn't learn from your ancestors that we are trying to bring back. We are trying to bring back these traditional means of life through pain and struggle is better than life of constant dopamine hits and pleasure.
All right. Vic, do you have any final thought before we wrap up?
Just one. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the tradition of trick-or-treating comes from souling. If you want to learn more, there is an episode of Off the Menu from last year where Charles Coulomb gets into the subject. Charles York, go ahead, wrap her up.
All right. Second to last tentative timestamp is now. Okay. Ifin, you would like to listen to these ramblings live, you can join us on our Discord server, link in the description box below. If you would like to hear our more abbreviated ramblings, you can follow us on our various social medias like Twitter and Gab, which is like Twitter for neocons, except green and frog-like. We also have a website that I believe we're in the process of working on. We have other things like the Facebook page, because it used to be called The Facebook, and we're all about tradition around here. And we have an Instagram and maybe something else. I don't care. I just copy paste the thing description from last week, and I don't bother to change it. All right, and now it is time to conclude in prayer in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Amen. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. All right, until next week, may God bless you and may God bless the United States of America.